Today we are holding a quick rally, then a press conference, and then we're going to deliver a banner and a letter to Senator Rockefeller's office.
Well, look past me. Be bad. It doesn't do any good to say I don't believe in climate change. That's not going to solve the problem. That's escapism to say, oh well, I decide I don't believe in it. That's not going to solve the problem, and our children are not going to find that as arguments. They're not going to say, oh well, you didn't believe in it, so it's okay what you did to the only planet we got.
The thing that concerns me the most is the increase in rainfall. The United States EPA projects that rainfall in West Virginia will increase 20% over the coming decades. If that wasn't bad enough, they expect the rainfall events to be more intense. So what that means, a lot of West Virginia towns and communities exist in narrow valleys with very narrow floodplains. So flooding would increase, runoff would increase, the danger to dams and coal impoundments would increase. In addition to that, there'll be impacts to disease, for example. Disease organisms like malaria, dengue fever, some of these tropical and subtropical diseases will begin to migrate into West Virginia because of the increased warming. Other dangers from climate change is impacts to the ski industry and tourism, for example. Right now we're in December. We haven't had significant snowfall yet. In fact, the last 10 to 15 years, we've been below snowfall averages. That affects the ski industry, which is an important industry in Greenbrier and Pocahontas County. And there will also be impacts to agriculture. The crops that are grown in West Virginia are adapted to a certain temperature range, certain rainfalls. And when those things change and alter, it affects crop yields. Also, the hunting industry and fishing industry. As temperatures increase, cold adapted fish like trout will not be able to adapt to the changes in temperature and water temperature. So these are the kinds of changes that will directly impact West Virginia in the coming decades. I want to say just a couple of words about some global issues from climate change that I'm particularly concerned about. One is, I'm sure everyone here is familiar with the Arctic ice cap. In the last 50 years, over 40% of the ice cap is melted. That's extraordinarily rapid in geologic terms. And Lonnie Thompson, he's a professor of glaciology at Ohio State University. He studied glaciers all around the world. And he projects that by the summer of 2020, there'll be no more sea ice in the Arctic. What that will cause is a catastrophic collapse in the Arctic ecosystem. Species like walruses, Arctic foxes, polar bears, ringed seals, narwhals, whales. This will impact because they depend on that ice to make a living. In addition to that, the increase in temperature, open water absorbs 80% of sunlight. The ice reflects 90%. So when you get rid of the ice, the ocean heats up. And what that'll cause is dramatic impacts to weather patterns in the United States and ocean currents, which will have profound effects on our country's weather patterns.
The West Virginia Environmental Council is taking a similar position to One Sky. And at this time, we're more or less on a standby pattern in regards to cap and trade, but certainly we express deep concern about the climate and a profound and powerful climate change bill that needs to be addressed. At this particular time, we're certainly in favor of cap. It's the trade that causes me personal great concern, and I would say that everyone else, considering the economic meltdown that this country's been going through, creating a new unregulated market is a very dangerous thing and needs to be considered in-depthly. Along those lines, I wanted to point out a couple of different points of concern. One being the idea of handing out free permits. Free permits is a very dangerous stance to take along those lines with these polluters. Secondly, would be the offsetting. And offsetting is very difficult. It works in theory, but how easy is it for waste, fraud, and abuse to be applied to this concept of offsetting, and how do we quantify what is real offsetting, what real offsetting is taking place as far as these emissions. So once again, it's taking place in an unregulated market in that regard.
From the hands of those who have gone before us, we have some learnings, particularly from the world religions, which I don't have time to mention all of them, but I would like to highlight in a few sentences 4 of them. From the Native Americans, the earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. From the Jewish Christian heritage, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. From the Islamic tradition, all peoples are members of the same body, created by one essence. If fate brings suffering to one member, the others cannot stay at rest. And from the Taoist Lao Tzu, those who take over the earth and shape it to their will never succeed. For a time in the world, some make a great noise and some are held silent. For a time, some are puffed fat and some are kept hungry. For a time, some push aboard and some are tipped out. At no time in the world will one who is sane overreach, overspend, overrate. So what are we learning in our time for the hands of those who can come after us to clasp? A few years back, I went to the United Nations to join with other religious leaders from around the world to leave our prayers for peace there just before the General Assembly opened. Our prayers for world peace made the connection that we need to embrace what is good for our planet if we are to have world peace. The concerns and prayers I heard there are still with me. I remember the woman from Greenland who prayed for wealthy nations to stop heating the earth so much because their ice is melting, and they have waterfalls where recently there was ice. People in small island countries in the Pacific prayed that their countries would not be submerged. People from Alaska prayed about preserving their resources and their way of life, which are melting away. It is clear that addressing climate change and having peace go hand in hand. Most recently, we have been made aware of the need to keep the carbon balance at 350 parts per million in the atmosphere. It is now at 380. All of us need oxygen, wherever in the world we are. For ourselves, the people of the world, and those who come after us, we need legislation and actions that will keep our environment in balance, that ensure that we have clean water to drink, air with sufficient oxygen to breathe, healthy soil for food, and clean energy for warmth. We can have life and have it more abundantly if we remember the truths of those who have gone before us, if we are mindful of those presently on our planet, and if we plan for those who inherit what we leave them.